Okay, so in this tutorial we are going to be making a game which looks something like this, where I've got some buttons, and when I click on play we have to collect the objects as they fall to the sky, and we're going to avoid the coal and the Brussels sprouts. And if we get hit by the coal or Brussels sprouts, you can see my health on my Sleigh health speed is depleting, and you can see if I leave one of these things go past, my score goes down, but if I collect one of these objects, my score does indeed go up. So if I lose an object, I lose 10 points, or rather miss an object, I lose 10 points. If I collect an object, I gain 10 points. And if I get hit by a coal or a sprout, I lose speed. And if we go into minus figures, we lose the game. Okay, so let's get going. Now, one thing to bear in mind with this tutorial, I'm not going to be going through everything in a tremendous amount of detail, but you'll be able to pause the game and see what I'm doing. So if you find that I am going a little bit fast, it's because I got quite a bit to get through in this tutorial. Therefore, you're more than welcome to pause, rewind, and go back through as you need. Okay, so let's get started with it. So I've got a blank GameMaker file here at the moment, and we are going to use this now to get started with it. Just before I do, I've got all of the images and things I'm going to be using from two websites. Flat Icon is one and FreePic is the other. Flat Icon is a fantastic website. This isn't a sponsored post or anything like that, but it's a really good website. You can get 10 free icons a day. If you register for free, you can get, I think it's 100 icons. So it's well worth having a look at, because you can get some really nice stuff there. Okay, so to speed everything up with this project, I've already got my images ready, set to go. So we're going to start now by importing these. So the first thing we are going to do is I'm going to make a new sprite. So I'm going to right click on my sprite, go to create, and then let's go down to sprite. Now I'm going to call this one Sleigh. If I can spell it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag in this image that I've got of a sleigh. Click, hold, down, drag, and drop. And it's going to just give me a warning if you want to do this. I'm going to click on yes. And there you are, you can see I've got a nice little image of a sleigh. Now, the downside with this is two things. It's facing towards the left, so I need to flip this so it faces towards the right, but also it's a bit big. So let's sort out that size issue first by clicking this size button here. And let's then change this to 180, width and height, done, click on apply, and we're good to go. Now the next thing we're going to do is flip it, so I'm going to click on edit image, go to the image at the top, we're going to go to the mirror, and then click on all frames, and you can see it's flipped there around, and then I just close this tab, and we're done for now. We will come back to this in a moment though. So I'm going to close that, and now I'm going to make a sleigh object. So I'm going to right click on object, go to create, down to object, and we're going to call this Sleigh. And what we're going to do is change this here to select the correct one, where I've only got one sprite at the moment, so it's that or nothing. Now at the moment there's no code, so let's add some events. So if I click on add event, let's go down to our key down, and let's do right first. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag in this assign variable, and I'm going to say x5 relative. So that basically is going to add 5 onto the X position of my sleigh. So it's going to move it towards the right slowly. So do the same then with left. So I'm going to click on add, key down, left, drag in this var, X, this one's going to be -5 relative, and that's my sleigh done for now. I will come back to this in a moment because we are going to add a little bit more code, but let's just check to see if this works. Now what we need to do is open my room. So you can see I've got a rooms option here. So I'm going to double click on room 1, and I'm going to add in a new instance layer. Right click on instances _1 and go to rename, and I'm going to call this sleigh. And we're going to drag in this sleigh object here, and let's just play. So if I press the right key down, it goes to the right, and if I press the left key, it goes back to the left. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So we can see that's working there, no problem. Now what I wouldn't mind doing is getting this sleigh to flip around the other way. So that's easy to do. Let's double click on the sleigh again, and I'm in the, let's do the right one first. So if I double click on right and then go down to this option here, set instant scale, and I'm going to leave this to 1 to 1, that's fine. On the left, we're going to use the same thing, instant scale, but this time horizontal is going to be -1. So let's play that and let's see what we do. So I'll go to the right, let's go to the left. You can see there's a little bit of a jump there. Okay, that's because we need to set the origin of the object. So in order to do that, let's close it and let's open the sprite again. So S Sleigh sprite. And what you'll see here, this origin is in the top left hand corner. This needs to be in the middle center. So think of it like pivoting around a point. Instead of pivoting it around the top corner, we're now going to pivot around the middle. So let's just play that and let's see what I've done. So if I go to the right and then let's go to the left, lovely. Excellent, much nicer, much better, that's absolutely fine. Let's close that, we're on our way. Okay, so we've got our sleigh working. We've got our sleigh working towards the left and to the right, which is nice. Let's now look at something else. My room. Now, at the moment, my room is 1,366 pixels wide. It's a little bit too wide for what I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shrink the room down. So on the side here, when I'm in my room, I'm going to shrink that down to 1,000. And you'll notice now it's come in a little bit. Let's center that, or get it to close to the center as we can. Well, that's fine. And let's change the background as well, make it a bit brighter because it is Christmas. So click on background, let's click on that, and let's go with a lightish. Ooh, it's a bit too light. Let's go with the lightish blue. There, well, that's fine there. I'm happy with that color. Let's click OK, and let's just make sure everything works. Excellent, lovely. Okay, fantastic. So our game now is well underway. Right, next thing that we are going to do is we're going to make a object that we can collect. So I'm going to right click on the sprite, go to create, and then go down to sprite. And this time we're going to call this S collect. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import some images. So I want my So the next thing we're going to look at doing is getting some form of enemy in. I don't want to call it an enemy, but it kind of is an enemy. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our sprites, go to create, and then we're going to go down to sprite. And we're going to call this S enemy. And what we're then going to do is we're going to copy in our images. Now, this image here and this image here. So I've got this here, which is S bristles for bristle sprite. In fact, I'm just going to rename this one really quickly. These two images are different sizes. So this one is 512 pixels and this one is 64 pixels. Now, because they've been imported into a 64-inch sprite, 64 pixel sprite, watch what happens. If I drag both of these in and drop them, it says importing sprites undoable. Yeah, click on yes. And then it asks me, do you want to resize it? So it allows us now to resize. And if I click apply, that's resized, and that's the same now as that. So I've got my bristle sprout and I've got my lump of coal. Now, because we have two objects here, I'm going to just put this down frames per second to 0. And that is pretty much done. I am going to set the origin to the middle center, which means that it'll be centered for both. So that's my enemy done. Let's now make an enemy object. Now, there is one massive shortcut that we can do, and that is to copy the collect variable, collect object. The reason being, in the collect object, we have basically got our code here to essentially decide which sprite to use. We've also got our code here which says move in a certain direction at a certain speed and rotate, and what to do if we hit the sleigh. And we've also programmed it to tell it what to do when we're outside of the room. So pretty much all of this is done. We will have to make some changes, but watch this, is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is on the O collect, I'm going to right click and go down to duplicate. We're then going to rename it. I'm going to call it O enemy. And then I'm going to double click it. And what we do, we change the sprite there. To be honest, we don't actually need to do this, but I'm going to do it just so that I can see which one we're talking about. And now we start changing a few things. So in the create option here, because we've only got two images, I'm going to basically get it to choose either 0 or 1. We then change the sprite from sCollect to sEnemy. In my step event here, that is fine, going down. I'm going to speed it up to 10, and that is fine there. So if we collide with the Sleigh, what we're going to do is we are not going to do anything here with our score, but we are going to do something with our Sleigh. Now I'll come back to that in a moment. And when we go outside of the room, I'm just going to get rid of that part here. So all it's going to do is destroy the instance. Now, back in the Sleigh. With the Sleigh, we manually coded it so that we would move at a rate of 5. Think of this like 5 pixels. And if we go onto the left, look, it's -5. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to make a variable called Sleigh speed. And every time our enemy hits our Sleigh, I'm going to take 1 off Sleigh speed. So what we'll do is we've got to add event, create, and I'm going to drag in this var, and we're going to call this Sleigh speed. And we're going to give it a value of 5. And then in this left, instead of saying -5, we're going to say minus Sleigh speed. And in the right, we're going to basically say Sleigh speed. Now, just before we go any further, let's just test this out just to make sure that I can still move. Excellent, that still works. That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got Sleigh speed there. So in our collision with our enemy and our Sleigh, what we're going to do now is when our object collides, we are going to basically take 1 away from Sleigh speed. Now there is one little downside. This Sleigh speed variable lives within this Sleigh object. Now I could make it global, but I don't want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference Sleigh speed from another object. Watch how easy this is. If I do O Sleigh, and then if I put a full stop at the end of it, I can now access variables or different functions from within this. So if we look for Sleigh speed, you'll notice Sleigh speed is here. So basically this is saying that we're going to do something to Sleigh speed in the O Sleigh object. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say -1 for that. Therefore, every time now I hit, or one of these Brussels sprouts hits my Sleigh, I'm going to lose 1 speed. So it'll go from 5 to 4 to 3 to 1 to eventually to 0. Now at the moment, my game manager needs to be changed. So at the moment it's only making collection objects. We now need to make enemy objects. So what we're going to do in the create of the game manager, I'm going to add in another set alarm. This time it's going to be alarm number 1. We're then going to go to add event, alarm 1, and the code that we used in alarm 0 is going to be pretty much exactly the same in alarm 1. In fact, we can copy it and we can paste it in. Now the downside now, we have to change everything, so the object now changes from oCollect to oEnemy. The range that I wanted to work from, I'm going to make it a little bit tighter. And the countdown needs to be changed from alarm 0 to alarm 1. And we're going to make sure this is 240. So if you think every 60 is 1, so that's going to be every 4 seconds a new enemy is going to be created and it's going to drop down. Let's just try this to see if everything works. Okay, so, there we are. You just saw then my Sleigh was hit by an object. I'm going to try now and get hit by a few more. So you can see it's already a little bit slower. I don't know where these are going to come from. Don't forget it's random. So, okay, that's another one. Now you can see it's really slow now. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to go to 0 and then start with the minus figures. Guess I'm just not quick enough. Here we go. Okay, so this is now really slow. My finger is flat on the left key and it's now back on the right key. And now you can see it's moving shape, but it's not doing anything. Now, what happens now is it goes into negative numbers. So when I press the right arrow or left arrow, it's the opposite. So what we now need to do is we need to basically do a check. And we need to say, well, look, if we are in a negative number, or if we're on 0, then really we need to end the game. Now, the way I'm going to do this, it can vary, but I'm going to use my Sleigh to do this. So I'm going to basically go and open my Sleigh, and I'm going to add in a create event, sorry, a step event. And we're going to basically say, we're going to do an if variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically say if the Sleigh speed, so if the Sleigh speed is equal to 0, we need to do something over here. Now at the moment we haven't got any other rooms to go to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create another room. So right click on rooms, go to create, and then go to room, and I'm going to say this game over. So this is my game over room. Now at the moment it's a blank room, there's nothing in there, but I'm just doing this just to show you. I'm going to make sure that it's the same size as the other one, so it's 1,000. And let's just go back here. While we're at it, we may as well rename this room as well. So right click, go to rename, this is going to be the game, and let's just go back really quickly to our Sleigh. So we can code this now so it goes to a room. So when the Sleigh speed is equal to 0, we're going to say go to room. And we're going to go to a specific room, which is the game over. All right, so that's game over. All right. Okay, so let's try that now. This might be a little bit more difficult, so let's have a look. Oh, okay, good. That's one already. Now, I'm not too bothered about if I'm going to score or not. I'm just trying to get out by hitting and losing points. Here we go. Okay, so this is now going to be quite slow. Here we go. Okay, so now this must be down to 1 or something. There you are. So that now has hit 0 and it's gone now to my game over. Okay, so that works there. Now let's start making something in this room as well, this game over. But before we do that, why not do another really quick one? Let's do a check to see what the score variable is, and if we say if it's less than 0, then we're also going to go to the game over room as well. Okay, so now basically if my score goes down to 0, we're going to go into the game over room as well. Now what we could do there, I suppose, is we could say restart room instead. That could be another option, because obviously it's going to be in a minus figure. And if you want to do that, that's fairly easy to do as well. Okay, so let's look at our game over. Now, with my game over, I've already made a background, and you can see I've got like S game over here, so we can put some stuff on it, and we're going to do something a little bit different with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do really quickly with this is I'm going to create a group. So right click, create group, and I'm going to call this game over. And I'm just going to drag in this S game over in here and dump it. So this now is a background for my game over screen, and let's just go back to the game over window here, and let's go to background and select sprite. So there you are, that's game over. That looks nice, that looks good. Okay, I'm also going to be putting in a few more things. So I'm going to right click on my sprites again, and let's go to create group, and we're going to call some buttons. And I've already made 2 buttons. They are a play and a quit. So I'm going to drag those in and just dump them here. Play, there they are, here they are, quit, and there's my play there as well. Okay, so those are done, those look nice. What I am going to do, which is a little bit different, I don't think I've done this before on here, I'm going to put some sprites down here. Now, the reason I'm not putting the objects in is because I don't want them to move and I don't want them to be a part of anything really. So what we're going to do is on my layers over here, we're going to create a new asset layer. Okay, now as you look down here, you've got this option, which is the 5th one in. If I click on that, you can see it's assets 1. So I'm going to just rename that and just call it image. And if I just drag in my select, I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to copy it and paste it. And then what I'm going to do is double click on it. And in the properties there, you can see it's got frame. And if I put it up to frame 1, you can see now that's the gift box, which is lovely. And if I copy this again, paste it, move it over a bit, double click it. And then let's go that for frame 2. Oh, no, sorry, I scaled that then. Wrong one. So frame 2. Which is the gingerbread man, and let's copy and paste that again. Now we're going to do one more on this one, drag that up, and let's go to frame 3, which is that. And let's go then, we'll do the enemy as well. That looks okay, good. Right, let's copy it and paste it. And let's drag that over a bit, double click it again, and let's put that one up to frame 1, which is the lumber coal. Excellent. So these aren't actually going to do anything, they're just going to sit there. They're not animated, they are literally just assets, they're sprites on our little sheet here, which is lovely. Now, what we are going to do on this screen is we are going to get a game over type thing there. So I'm just going to show you, your score, and then we're going to use these 2 buttons. So before we go any further, let's have a look at getting a game over on here, just to show the value of what we've got. Now, we've done this before, so let's add in a new group. So I'm going to create a group here called game over, and then what we're going to do in here, I'm going to right click, create new object. So this object lives within the game over folder, and I'm going to call this game over. I tell you what, we call it game manager. We'll call it game over. Okay, so I'm not going to assign a sprite to it, but we are going to use a draw GUI. So with this draw GUI, we essentially now are going to add in a draw event. And don't forget, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. So let's set a font, which is going to be the font that I've used. We're going to set alignment, which is going to be the center. Let's set a color, which is going to be white. And then let's show something here. So I'm going to say your score is, and then we're going to say score here. Okay, so where are we going to position this? Well, let's put this right in the center. And if we do this, X is going to be room underscore width divided by 2. And then this one is going to be room underscore height divided by 2. Okay, so what should happen now is this will put the score right in the center as soon as I go in my instances and we drag this on over here. So let's play that and let's see what we do. Okay, so I'm going to leave myself lose this one. Lovely. So you can see there, look, it's got your score is -10. Why? Because we've just gone through that. Now, we can do a little setting just to say, look, your score is always going to be 0 because you've lost. But for this, I might do it later, we'll see. But you can see that's working there. What we need to do now is get the buttons to come up. So let's make some buttons. So I'm going to make a new object. So we're going to right click, create. In fact, let's make a group first. And we'll call this buttons. And then let's right click, create, and let's go to object. And we're going to say, play button. And what we're going to do is basically click on the sprite, look for the game buttons, which is in the buttons folder. Let's go play. And essentially, when we click this play button, we want to go to a room. So let's go and go to mouse. And then let's do when left pressed. What we're going to do is go to a room. So let's have a look then for our rooms again, which is down here. And we're just going to go to the normal room, which is the game. Lovely. So when we click on the play button, we're going to go to the room. Easy peasy. Okay, let's add another one in. So let's go to object. So we go O quit button, and again we're going to select the correct sprite, this one, and we're going to do the same thing as we did before. Add, just go to mouse, left pressed, grab that room. In fact, no, we're not going to grab room this time. We're going to use this exit game. Lovely. So this will exit the game completely. Fantastic. So let's drag these on. Let's go to the game over. I'm going to add in a new layer, right click, rename, and we're going to call this buttons. And then I'm just going to drag that in there. One play, one quit, and that should be enough. Now, we're also going to need to make a start screen. So let's now make another room. So right click on rooms, go to create, and then let's go to a room. And we're going to call this start. And we're going to change this now to be 1000 width as well. So it's all the same. And down here, let's add in a new folder. Right click, create group. And we're going to say this is the start screen. And what I'm going to do is drag in my start screen, which I've already made, which is here. So S start screen is perfect. Okay, so on my start room, what we're going to do is click on buttons, sorry, background, select sprite. Lovely, that's nice. And add in a new instance layer, right click on the layer, rename it. We're going to call it buttons. And we're going to just drag in these buttons over here because the way they work is exactly the same. In fact, we could have 1 year and 1 year. And that should be it. Now, the downside is when we play the game, it's always going to go to the game. So this time I want to go to the start screen. So what we're going to do is reorder this. So let's click on the home here, or click on this icon here as it moves. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the start and I'm going to move that up to the top so it's next to the house. So as long as it's by the house, this time when we play the game, it'll work like this. So now we have our little game, which is lovely. So if I click on play, there you are, it starts, and gosh, it starts playing straight away. Ooh. Trying my best here. Okay, we've probably got one more now left before we get hit. There we are. So your score is 70. Excellent, lovely, nice, all done. If we press play again, we know that works. Let's try quit this time. Quit closes the program. Excellent. Now, there's only a few things we could do to improve this. Sound is one thing, but I'm not going to do sound in this one. What would be nice is to have some form of health on the top. So when we play our game, what we have is our sort of Sleigh health over here. So let's look at doing that now. If I open my O Game Manager, which is here, and we go to the Draw GUI event over here, what we are going to do is underneath the text, we're going to add in something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a health bar. So let's get to that one first. So let's scroll down here. Let's add a little bit of text in. And this text is going to say something like Sleigh health. Or Sleigh speed. Something like that. Value, we're going to remain blank at the moment. Let's give it a number of 700. And we're going to basically put it down 50 pixels. Okay, just try that to see what it's like. It should inherit everything else that's up here now, like the fonts and everything. Lovely, Sleigh speed is there. Okay, so let's now think about how we draw one of these. So what we're going to do, there's an option here for health bar. So there's one there, look, draw a health bar. And what we have is basically the direction. Now the value is where the Sleigh health is actually stored. Now, I could, if I wanted to, draw this health bar in the Sleigh, but because I've got my store or score already there, I may as well just do it here. So let's do this. We're going to go O Sleigh dot Sleigh speed. So I'm getting the variable Sleigh speed from O Sleigh. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by 5 because there is only 5 things to it. And then I'm going to divide it by 100. Now what that's going to do is it'll turn it into a percentage. Now what I need to do is set the size and position of the health bar. So left, we're going to say 880. Top, 25. Right is going to be 980. And then bottom is going to be 60. Now I'm probably going to have to change these a little bit to extend the length of the bar, or maybe make it a bit bigger, but we'll see now how we go. The background is the background color of the bar. The outline is obviously, if you've got a thick line or a thin line, we're going to have a very thin line, so even if it's white. The minimum color and the maximum color are going to help us. So let's have a look. So the minimum color, we normally go for a red, so let's go for a really bright red there. And the maximum color, let's go for a green. It's a bit traditional, but it'll help it stand out. So essentially, we need to play this to see what happens. Okay, so if we press play. Okay, so straight away, there's a little bit of an issue. So the issue is that it was showing up straight away as nothing. All right, now then. Where have we gone wrong? Now, I've gone wrong here because I had a divide by 100 instead of a times by 100. So let's try it again. There we are, Sleigh speed's full. Okay, so I'm on purpose now trying to hit as many of these things as possible. Okay, so that's that. Okay, I think what I'm probably going to have to do is just take out one of these conditions at the moment, otherwise I'm going to be here for a while. So let's go into my O Sleigh, and let's just for now, we'll say if it's less than minus 100, should give me a few things to worry about. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, so as my, you can see it's working quite well there. So as my Sleigh gets hit, you can see the Sleigh speed is going down. And you can see the colours changing, which is lovely. And we're on the last one now, so one more. Just missed it. And that one's over there. Oh, come on. Here we go. Lovely. Okay, so you can see that's working quite well there, which is lovely. Okay, so we're going to reset that back to 0, and I think we are near enough all done. Now, the only thing that I am going to do is just go back to this Game Manager for a second. I'm going to change the size of this, so from the right into the left. So I'm going to say 850 to make this a little bit wider. Well, that's a little bit better there, so it's a bit wider on here. Okay, so there's one or two more things we're going to do to finish the game off. The first thing, let's just compile a game. When we press the play button, obviously we can see this works, lovely. We can see our score count increments. But the downside is obviously when it goes past and one of the gifts goes outside, it goes and shows you a -10, that's fine. But let's try and play it again. Now when I press the play button, nothing's happening. Just have a think why that might be. Okay, so the reason being is because of a condition we've placed, and it's in the step event where we've said if the score is less than 10, go straight to that game over room. So that condition is essentially being met here because if we go back to our game, you can see it's there, -10. So this is actually not going to go. Now we know the button works because it worked on the first screen and it's exactly the same button, exactly the same code. So what we're going to do is just going to solve that really quickly by just adding in a variable under here. And we're going to say score is set to 0. So what's going to happen is once this has been satisfied, we're going to go to the game over, then we're going to reset the score to 0. And what will happen is when we play it, so I'm going to purposely now leave this go. There you are, your score is 0. Now you will see it flash up in the top corner for less than 0.1 of a second, so to speak. It'll say -10, but you can see there it's got 0. And if we click this play button again, there we are, it goes back in. So this one works now. So we've solved the issue very, very, very easily. Okay, so there's one other thing that we're going to do, and it is to make these buttons animate when we roll over them with the mouse, because they're quite boring at the moment. Okay, so to do this, there's a few things we have to do. The first thing we're going to do is change the origin of the buttons. So I'm going to open S play and S quit the sprites by double clicking them, and I'm going to change the origin to middle center. So if I change the origin here to middle center, that's good. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to start with the O play button. I'm going to double click on it, and we're going to add an event which is going to be a mouse enter. And when the mouse enters, we are going to do something, and we're going to do something with a scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, we're going to scale it by 1.1. That means pretty much 10%. So when the mouse enters, we're going to scale this by 10%. And what we need to do then is do another mouse leave. And we're just going to say, right, scale back to 1 to 1. So that's going to be normal. Let's just try that out and see what it looks like. Okay, so if I hover over the mouse now, this play button, watch. There you are. So that works quite nicely. We haven't done it with the quit, so let's add that now to the quit really quickly. So if I double click the quit button, let's add in a mouse down, and let's go mouse enter. And again, we're just going to do exactly the same thing, 1.1, and we're going to do a mouse leave. So add event, mouse leave, and we're going to drag that in as normal. And let's press play. Now there is only one downside, because we've changed the origin of these buttons. What might happen if we just go straight to the quit screen, you might see that these buttons will change where they are positioned in the room. There's no problem really with that. If I just go back to my game over, and I can move these back there where they belong, and everything then will be absolutely fine. So that is essentially the game pretty much done and built. We've got a basic menu system in place. We've got a game over, we've got a score counter, we've included a health bar, we've got a way of losing, we've got a way of winning, and it's an infinite game, so it'll keep on going, and it'll keep on making these little gifts as they come down. Now, if you've enjoyed this, please give it a like. If you want anything else, please leave it in the comments below, and if I've got time, I will happily oblige. If not, see you next time.